Welcome to Dr. D.Y. Patil Institute of Hotel Management, Pune. This presentation is done by Professor Ajim Sheikh for the course, Second Year BSc Hospitality Studies. Let us try to understand the fish and shellfish. Fish generally divided in two categories culinary-wise. Those are as follows: fin fish, or fish with fins and internal skeletons. Second is shellfish, or fish with external shells, but no internal bone structure. This is simple classification of fish. We will learn detailed classification in next few slides. Now we will see the composition and structure of the fish. The edible part of fish contains water, proteins, and fats. Also small amounts of minerals, vitamins, and other substances. Fish is low in calories, compared to other protein sources. Further aspects of composition and structure of the fish are as follows. Fish has very little connective tissue. For this reason fish cooks very quickly. Fish is naturally tender, delicate, and soft in texture. While cooking fish, generally moist heat cooking methods used to preserve moistness. Cooked fish must be handled very carefully, or it will fall apart. Let us see the classification of fish. Culinary-wise, fish is divided into two main categories. First one is fish, or fin fish with internal bone structure, and other category is shellfish with external structure. Fin fish is divided into two categories, those are white fish and oily fish. White fish is again divided into round fish and flatfish. Second major classification of fish is shellfish. Shellfish is divided into two categories, those are crustaceans and mollusks. Mollusks is again divided into three categories as follows: first, univalve, second, bivalve, and the third one is cephalopods. We will go through the detailed information based on this classification of fish. Now, we will see the difference between white fish and oily fish. Various points discussed in this table also elaborates the characteristics of both types of fish. In white fish, the flesh is always white in color, even when cooked. While in oily fish, there is darker flesh, ranging from light brown to dark pink. In white fish, the oil is stored in liver. Whereas, in oily fish, oil is distributed throughout the flesh. White fish is deep sea fish, and oily fish is surface sea fish. In white fish, fat-soluble vitamin A and D found in liver. On the other hand, in oily fish, fat-soluble vitamin A and D are dispersed throughout flesh. White fish can be round or flat in shape, but oily fish is always flat in shape. White fish is easily digestible and suitable for invalids. But oily fish is less suitable for invalids, as it takes more time to digest, as compared to white fish. White fish has a delicate flavor, but oily fish has strong flavor. In this slide, we will go through selection criteria of fish. Following points helps us to select a good quality of fish. In a good fish, skin should be shiny and of good color. In white fish, the flesh should be really white, not faintly yellow. The body of the fish should be rather heavy in relation to the length, and the flesh plump and springy. Eyes should be bright and not sunken. Bright eyes are indicators of good fish. Gills should be red. If fish is stale, gills become dark brownish. Further, few more points of selection criteria of fish are as follows. For freshness, the fish should have a pleasant, slightly salty smell, while stale fish has an ammoniac odor, which increases with its staleness. If the imprint of the finger on fish body remains as it is, after it has been pressed, then fish is not fresh. If the scales come out themselves, then the fish is stale. Raw flesh should not come away from the bones, this is the sign of fish deterioration. The tail of the fish should be stiff. How to store the fish. Use separate fish refrigerator, or part of refrigerator, especially reserved for fish. Storage temperature, for short term for the fish and shellfish is, 1 degree Celsius, to 2 degrees Celsius. Storage temperature, for long term for the fish and shellfish is, -18 degrees Celsius to -24 degrees Celsius. All fishes should be stored, in layers of ice, in a fish box. Fish box should be emptied, washed daily, then repack fish, with fresh ice. First in, first out process, to be followed strictly. How to cut the fish. In figure 1, we can see the market form of the fish. This is actual form of fish when received. In figure 2, viscera of the fish is removed, which is shown with dotted line. Viscera is the material in the stomach of the fish, like intestine, internal organs, and eggs, etc. How to dress the fish. Figure 1 shows how to remove scales of the fish. Figure 2 shows how to cut the fins and tail of the fish. Figure 3, we can see how to make cut through the stomach of the fish to remove viscera. After removing viscera, fish should be rinsed once. Further process to dress the fish is shown in the following figures. Figure 1 shows how to remove head of the fish. Figure 2 shows totally dressed fish, which is ready to process for cooking as per requirements. Let us see how to take out the fillet of flatfish. Generally, flatfish gives 4 fillets, 2 from each side. A thin blades, flexible knife is used to fillet a flatfish. It is advisable not to remove head and tail of the fish before filleting fish, as it gives scope to hold the fish while taking out the fillet. Figure 1 shows fish before filleting. Figure 2 show the position and the direction of knife. How to fillet a round fish. Let us see. Figure 1 shows cut into the top of the fish, along one side of the tail, detaching the backbone from head to tail. Figure 2 shows cut under the flesh, toward the tail, and detaching the cut piece from body of the fish. In this figure, we can see that fillet is almost detached from the body of the fish. Same process is followed on the other side of the fish to remove the fillet. This way, round fish gives 2 fillet. What are the various cuts of the fish, and what are the cooking processes used to cook them? First, let us see the cuts of fish. Those are as follows: fillet, paupiette, supreme, goujones, tronçon, and darn. This is the fillet of fish. Generally, large fillet is not cooked, but it is processed for further cooking methods. Fillet gives various cuts, which are used to prepare further recipes in the kitchen. This is the paupiette of fish. Papiette is the thin slice of boneless fish, which rolled after stuffing. Stuffing may vary according to preferences, provided that it should not come out from the sides of rolled papiette. Best cooking methods for papiette are steaming and poaching. This is the darn of the fish. Darn is a round cut of fish, taken across the bone. Following cooking methods are used to cook the darn cut of fish: deep frying, pan grilling, steaming, baking, shallow frying, etc. Darn is mostly used in Indian curries. This is the troncan of the fish. Troncan is a cut of flatfish, taken across the bone. Troncan is nothing but the darn of the flatfish, like pomfret. Following cooking methods are used to cook the darn cut of fish: deep frying, pan grilling, steaming, baking, shallow frying, etc. This is the goujon of the fish. Goujon is a thin strip of fish that has been cut from the fish fillet. Also referred to as a fish finger or batten. Goujons is best for deep frying or crumb frying. Fish fingers is the most popular dish made up of goujons. This is the supreme of the fish. A supreme cut is a slice of fish cut from a fillet at a slant, and is considered the best and choicest cut of fish. Supreme is best for the making of fish steak. Thinner version of the supreme is also used for crumb fried fish, known as fish and chips. There are two classifications of shellfish. First classification of shellfish is mollusks. These are soft sea animals that fall into three main categories. Those are as follows: univalves, they have a single shell such as snail and conch. Bivalves mollusks, they have a pair of hinged shells, such as clams and mussels. Cephalopods, these are marine animals that are characterized by muscular tentacles attached directly to their head, such as octopus, squid, and cuttlefish. Second classification of shellfish is crustaceans. Typically they have body covered with a hard shell or crust. They have segmented shells and jointed legs. For example, lobsters, shrimps, and crabs. This slide shows bivalve molluscs, such as clam, mussels, and scallops. This slide shows univalve molluscs, such as snail and conch, etc. This slide shows cephalopods, such as octopus and squid, etc. In this slide, few crustaceans are shown. Those are lobster, crab, and shrimp, etc. Let us see the difference between crustaceans and molluscs. The various points of this difference are also characteristics of both groups. As per definition, crustaceans are covered with hard, spiked shells, while molluscs have two joint shells, as in bivalves, or a single shell, as in univalves. Crustaceans have considerable mobility because of limbs, while molluscs have limited mobility because they don't bear limbs. Crustacean never eaten raw. On the other hand, molluscs, like oysters, can be eaten raw. In case of crustaceans, the shell is given out every year and replaced by new one. In univalve molluscs, the spiral ring grows every year. What is the selection criteria of shellfish? Let us see. Oysters, mussels, and clams should have tightly closed shells if alive. Shell must not be opened or loosened. Live lobster, crayfish, and crabs should move their legs, and the tail of lobster will curl under the body when picked up. Fresh shrimps must be firm and have faint sweet smell. Damage can be detected if there is blackening and spotting in the shell. We will learn preserving and processing of fish. What is the smoking of fish? Fish is smoked today, mainly to give it a pleasant flavor and aroma, rather than to preserve it. The method of processing used nowadays will not keep the produce edible for much more than a week at ordinary temperatures, as the fish is only slightly salted and smoked. In the picture shown, we can see the smoking box, in which batch of fish is being smoked. In this slide, we will see one of the curing method, called as brining. Brining is a technique that involves submerging meat in a salt solution prior to roasting or grilling. The brining process adds an extra hit of flavorful moisture to the ingredient. The prepared fillet is washed to remove any traces of blood, and then soaked in brine solution for several hours, depending on the size. The fillets are then removed from the brine and left to drain overnight to allow a good salt gloss to form. Pictures in the slide shows how fish is kept in brine solution. In one of the pictures, we can see some flavoring are added into the brine solution, which will enhance the flavor of the fish. Next process of curing is dry salting. The prepared sides are washed to remove any traces of blood, and then gently rubbed all over with dry salt. The sides are then laid skin side down on a bed of salt in a box of similar sizes and covered with more salt. Several more fillets may be stacked on top and similarly treated with the salt. When the stacks of fillets are completed, it is pressed by placing a piece of wood, and weight on top is kept. After pressing, the fillets are washed and placed in brine for about 1 hour and left to drain overnight. Pictures in the slide shows how dry salting is done. There are pieces of fish stacked one above the other, with lots of salt sprinkled on them. Now, let us see the pickling of fish. Pickling is a popular method of preserving oily fish. The raw fish are marinated in vinegar or wine with various flavorings and herbs. Pickling softens flesh, also increases the taste. Pickling is one of the traditional methods of preservation without any refrigeration. In this slide, we shall see the oldest and traditional method of preservation of fish, which is sun drying. Drying is the process in which moisture is removed by exposure to natural air current, as humidity is regulated by climatic condition. In this process, the energy of the sun is collected and concentrated. Raising the air temperature increases the amount of water the air can hold, thus, the relative humidity will be reduced, and the air will absorb additional water vapor. In the humid tropics, the relative humidity is often too high for rapid natural drying, and it is hoped that solar-powered units, which are simple, inexpensive, and efficient, can be developed for drying fish. Here we can see how fish is kept for sun drying.